Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today in JavaScript D10 we'll be studying uh, fetching APIs from some other server onto your own HTML pages via JavaScript, and this lecture is part of DDCDP 23. So what actually are APIs? APIs may stand for application programming interface, but broadly speaking, if say you have some server and you need to get some data for your own use from that particular server, so there are times when servers basically are generous enough, the server guys, they offer APIs or some URLs where you can access particular data, and they provide documentation as well, so that you can efficiently grab data from that. There are different authentication scenarios also, so that only restricted users can access that data, but here we are going to access a free service of one of the famous museums in US. It's metmuseum.org. So if you can access their website, and this is their API page. So as I said, API needs documentation and they have provided a very detailed documentation on their API page. And for your own practices, if you Google GitHub free APIs or public APIs, so this is a whole lot of huge list where you can, for your practice, for example, if you need to get some information about books and display that on your website, or for some reasons you need that data, so you can click on that. So there are many books. Then similarly, weather API, a lot of APIs are here which are absolutely free and you can access them. And even for your practice, while you are learning fetching data from APIs, you can use some of these for your maybe in assignments I may give you one of these APIs for you. So here is the Metropolitan Museum of Art Collection API, and let me just go back to the document and give you an overview of what HTTP requests are. So maybe a URL normally is, you can call it an HTTP request. So for example, if I issue some URL cnn.com, so this is a URL, right? Then if there is some path, for example user/10, so this is known as path of this URL. So this is the base URL cnn.com, and then user/10, so this is user/10. this is some other part of the URL, okay, path. And there can be other stuff also, for example http cnn.com/news/10 news/10. so this is also part of the main URL, and maybe it is fetching 10 number news, a news with an ID of 10 probably. Similarly, this may be fetching a user with an ID of 10. Okay, so for example, this is the news, or maybe there is a URL/news. Here all of the news are being displayed, maybe 50 per page or something like this. So initially if 50 per page are being displayed, so there will be something like this. Have you ever noticed this question mark? We will go into the detail of URLs in PHP and Symfony, but for now just you need to understand some basics of it. Okay, so this is a path news, and then question mark, these are known as query parameters. What? Query parameters. So for example, I can say search is equal to cricket. Okay, so this is the path, news is the path, and this is the query parameter. After question mark, it is the query parameter, and before the question mark, it is path. So question mark search is equal to cricket. It means with this URL we are sending some extra information to the server, and that is called query parameter. So search is equal to cricket. I can send more than one parameters, query parameters. So in that case you need to add just the ampersand between any query parameters. So search is equal to cricket, maybe date is equal to some date, and another parameter country is equal to Pakistan, for example. So if this is the whole total URL, but then this is the path and these are the query parameters. So how many query parameters are here? Three. They are separated by ampersands. Okay, so with this URL we are sending this extra information to the server, and there at the server end they can then cache. So for example, at server they will say what is search, it will be cricket, what is date, it is this. So you have sent the request to the server, and server will know which parameters have been sent to it via these query parameters.
Yes, sir.
Got it? Let us just check some random, maybe cricketinfo.com, and if we can search World Cup, maybe if we are, yes, here it is. So you can see, if I can zoom it, the URL here at the end, you can see search is equal to World Cup. It can't be zoomed probably, the URL, so but you can practice. If you search something on a website, you will see query parameters there, and if you go to advanced search on a particular website, okay, and click on search, then you may see more than one query parameter. So you can see they will be separated by the ampersands, and the server then it will cache those query parameters. So here any main URL is known as endpoint in API's world. Okay, normally if somebody tells you what is an endpoint, so it will be a URL actually. So this is an endpoint, public collection v1 objects. If this is issued with this API, and by the way, their API based URL is, let me just type that in, it is collection api.metmuseum.org public collection 1, something like this. This is the base URL. So in my JavaScript, let me just add this as a variable for now. The base URL will be this, so you will be able to see it. I have created two files, first.js, first.html and first.js. Okay, so let me create a variable, let base URL, you can give any variable name to this. So this is the base URL, https collection api.metmuseum.org/public/collection/v1. That's it. Okay. The next is, so documentation is very important to read, because you will know which endpoints you need to access, which parameters to pass and all that. Okay, so this one is objects. There are main four endpoints. First one is objects, the second one is object and departments. So let us start with departments. If you click on departments, so the base URL is this, sorry, the endpoint is this. and the request should be this. So this is the main website URL, right? Then this is the endpoint URL. So you concatenate it with the main website. This is the main website, and then this is the endpoint. Okay, so that's the URL. If I access it, you can see the base URL this. Maybe the base URL is this. Sorry. Let us copy it from here. Okay, so this is the base URL, the website address. And what should be the endpoint? let us create a endpoint variable also, and it will be for departments, it will be this. So endpoint means the part of the URL after the base or the main website URL. Okay, this is the endpoint. So what should be the final URL? Anybody? If this is the website URL or base URL, this is the endpoint. So we need to concatenate this with this so that the full URL is. So the complete URL will be let full URL is equal to what it will be? Base URL plus endpoint. This is concatenation. This text and this text will be added together. Okay, so if I just console.log full URL now, what it will give me? Anybody? It's the full URL actually. So that's the full URL. And if I access it in the browser, even any endpoint of a website, if you access, so it will return you something like this, which is JSON actually. There can be other formats also, XML or plain text or HTML, but because this URL, this endpoint returns JSON, that's why it is in the format of JSON. And if you want to have it appear as in some stylish format, so you can use JSON Viewer Chrome extension, for example. Maybe let us add it now. This is just for viewing, okay? It has no other functionality attached to it. So if an API gets you some JSON, it will be in a bit of readable format. Now you can see, because we have added the extension, so this is a bit in readable format. Okay, this is because of this Chrome extension. Okay, so if this endpoint is accessed, this data is returned, which is actually JSON. It is not HTML. Okay, remember, it is not HTML. It is a data format known as JSON. And what is JSON? JavaScript object notation. This is not JavaScript object, but it is a bit like JavaScript object. So it actually is text format which can be exchanged between two servers. And inside, then you in your programming language, for example JavaScript, we can turn it into JavaScript object easily. In PHP there will be a function for that as well, in any language. So this is actually a text format, but in any language it can be converted into some meaningful object. So in our code we have now a full URL, which is this. Okay, now let us come to how JavaScript can access this data. So you can see we open this URL in a browser. Do you agree? We copied the full URL and opened it here. But in JavaScript we want it to be programmatically accessed. We want to not copy it and paste it in the browser physically, but from JavaScript. So here what we need to do is we will run the function, or let us create a function, call it get function, get departments. We will create a function and call it get departments, and in it we will write some code. So the code to write is fetch, and fetch is the built-in JavaScript function, and it is passed. What is it passed? It is passed some URL. Okay, so let us pass this URL for now. So fetch full URL. It is just equivalent to as if we have pasted it inside the browser address bar. So now JavaScript will do something with this URL. Whatever is the URL, we will do it. It will fetch it, and as we studied yesterday what async wait are and what promises are, so fetch actually returns a promise. What fetch does is it returns a promise. So we will let step 1 equals to this, and you know now that if a function returns promise, what we do with it? We will write await with it. Okay, like this. And if a function has an await inside it, what should we do with it? We should make it async. This is one of the ways. Another way is to just add dot then with it and leave it as it is. But for now we will do it with this. So step 1 is await this. The next step is step 2. Because the output of step 1 is promise itself, so we will rerun it. Let us do something else. Let us console.log step 1. Do you think this code will run, or we need to do some extra stuff as well? We need to call the function because it is just so, and call it with the full URL. Okay, now let us console.log it, check it. So it has returned a response. Okay, that function has returned a response. The step 1 is actually the console.log of step 1, but it has a lot of data. One of them is status is 200. Status 200 means everything is okay and fine. Okay, in HTTP we will get further into details of it once we are studying PHP, inshallah. But for now, this first step has no meaningful data for us except some response. And if you and now you know what prototype also is. So in the prototype there is .json data, .json method, sorry. So we can run .json method on the response we have got, because it still is not in a proper format, and this .json will return a promise as well. This is the second step. Not the promise, but it actually is a promise, so we need to have a step 2 now. Let step 2 equals await. So this is the response actually. So it will be step 1 dot JSON method will be called. Okay, so the step 2 now is, and you know that if you recall, these will get you values from the dot then functions which we used in promises. So step 2 will be actually the value of this operation, and step 1 will be the value of this operation, which is a response. And now if we console.log step 2, now this will be in a meaningful format. If we just refresh it, now it says it's an object, and objects has a key which is departments, and departments actually has 19 values in it, and it's an array. So any questions? How can we access the departments? Just the departments. Right now it is an object, and object has a key which is department. So the step 2 is now that data. So if I access step 2 dot departments, what's the key? Now it is accessing the main array. And if I, for example, access 1, so which one it will access? This one, ancient Near Eastern art. So for example, if I access 1 and then dot, because it is an object, dot display name. So what it will show? Ancient Near Eastern art. Dot department, what is it? Display name. Display name. So ancient Near Eastern art. Is it fine? Okay, but we need to, let us make it easy for you. Let all departments equals, what is it is step 2 dot departments, because, and now all departments is an array. So if, for example, I need to print all the values, remember the map function I mentioned earlier, we need to go through this array one by one. So this is now an array. If I console.log all departments, what it will be? This is an array of 19 departments, and it has every member of the array is an object itself. Okay, and object has department 1 and display name properties. So let us now loop through it. How to loop through it? Map function is the best friend you have. So all departments dot map, and you know by now map is passed a callback function. You can pass it arrow function also, but for now let us pass it normal function, callback function, and each member of the, we can call it DEPT. So if I console.log, console.log dpt dot, what it is, display name. So what it will show? Anybody? This will show all the departments. So now you can see all the departments are being console.logged, right? The next step is, we don't want to console.log it, but we, and you know the map function actually returns another function. So we can assign it a variable also. So let HTML equals this, but div, let us start with these template literals, okay, and return also, because for every member of the array this value will be returned. So div class is equal to say record or anything like this, and then inside the div we need to print the department name. The department name will be printed like this. This is string interpolation, variable interpolation, and here it is dpt dot display name. That's it, and it is being returned into this. So the outcome of this is another array which is HTML. If I console.log HTML, now what it will have? Recall your map functions. It will be an array of HTML div strings. So if we just check it, you can see in arrays it has all the divs, but we don't want it to be an array. What we can do with it? Well done. So this is array, so we will dot join and join it with empty string, so that it comes out of the array and becomes an HTML string. Just recall your map functions, right? Or maybe the HTML you were constructing from the objects, if you remember. So that's the same thing. Now what is HTML? If I console.log HTML, it will be just a string of divs. Now this is just a string, not the array. Okay, what is going to be the next? I need to append this HTML into some div on the page. So yeah, so this is the first .html page. So I have already a div which is div class is equal to output. So the first thing is you need to access that output. So let output equals what it is going to be, document dot query selector, and that query selector is going to be dot output. So we have now grabbed that div, and here rather than consoling the HTML, we will make it console.log output dot inner HTML, and you can append child as well as do a lot of other stuff as well, but for now output dot inner HTML is equal to HTML. That's it. And if I refresh the page now, hopefully we have all the data coming from the API in the form of this. If you check it, so div class is equal to output, and this is all the stuff. Is this clear?
Yes.
Okay, so what's the phenomena or what's the psychology of APIs? Like, you didn't make the database, you didn't do anything at all, but only you were shown a URL to access it, and you access that URL, and then you are fetching the data and showing it on your. So for example, you might have checked some websites for flight schedules and all that, and there are multiple websites, all show you the same data. Why? Because they are accessing some common API which shows you the flight schedule and all. Okay, so there can be many other examples also. Is this clear?
Yes.
So let me quickly recap what we did. We first created an async function, and it is passed some URL, the full URL, and full URL in our case is base URL is the main website URL, and the endpoint is this, and the full URL is the combination or the concatenation of these two base URL and endpoint. And then this function, why are we using await with fetch? Fetch actually will help us fetch data from this URL, and that is stored, the output is stored in step 1, which is response actually. So the response has another JSON function, and the response actually initially is not readable. So it's a stream of data, you can call it. And in Pashto I say gadwad data. So this secondary function step 1.json converts it into actual data, and again we are using await because promise is involved. And if you check the structure of step 2, you will see that there is a key departments, which is an array of objects again. So we have created another variable, all departments, and then what we do is we map through all departments data, which is an array, and return individual records, and then we join it so that the output is converted into string, and then we have already selected an object, a div on the page, and we make it in the HTML of that. So okay, if we go to the documentation page of the APIs again if you go to the top of the page, so these are endpoints, objects, object, departments, and search. So for example, if I click on objects, this is the endpoint v1/objects, and it has it's a lot of data. That's why I'm not going to access this one. It searches and it gets a lot of time. So there is a request. So the whole URL is this, and if we issue a query, again as I said, question mark department ID is equal to 1. So the object, this will show only this department's objects. Okay, if I run some URL with this, so it will show only the departments with ID 1. Similarly, the dates, you can go through all this yourself, and for example, if metadata date is this, so it will only show us that dates objects. Okay,
it should be passed in endpoints.
It will be, this is the endpoint, and this, it should be concatenated with the endpoint. Okay, and if we access this one with some ID, so then we get the whole object. And what is the response? The response has all these things. So for example, if 437133 is the object ID, so it will have all these values returned. So let us try this one, because the other ones may. So this is the object endpoint, this one, and if we access it, where it is, this one. So we will just change the public part of it like this from the departments one, and the object ID is some random one, or maybe we can access get something. The object ID is 4371, this one. Where is it? Here. Okay, so the same URL, then the endpoint for objects, and then at the end there is an ID. So that ID will just show us one object's data. So here it is. The object ID is this, and access number is this. Maybe there is department ID also. Department is this European paintings, and there are images also. And these are the tags. So let us practice this. We may have some IDs on the page. Once those are clicked, we will show that data in the on the page. Okay. Okay, so here let us create another let object endpoint equals, from your documentation you can copy it quickly. This is the endpoint, and we will have it in quotes. Is this right? Okay, so let object endpoint is this, and the main base URL will remain the same because we have to concatenate it with this. So we can directly do it also. Let us create another function, fetch and it is also going to be async. So async function fetch object, and an ID is passed to it. Okay, whatever is the ID, it will be passed to it. Fetch object this. Okay, so the object endpoint is this. So what is going to be what are we going to fetch? Fetch what? The URL. Okay, so it is base URL plus object endpoint. So it will fetch that full URL will be this one. Let us do this one with the dot then syntax so that you understand what it is actually behind the scenes. So dot fetch, as I said, returns an object. Let us not use async for now. So the function fetch object and ID is passed into it, but we need to have the ID also with it. This is the endpoint, and any ID, for example this actual object will be fetched by using the ID at the end. So one more plus, and it will be ID. Got it? So this will be the whole URL. Object ID is the part of it. If you go to documentation, so you can see they have used the token here, so it will be replaced by any ID. Object slash, for example 10, it will only show 10. Right now it is showing this one 437.113, so it means the URL is 437.133. And internally in SQL they will be using where ID is equal to this, where condition. Okay, but that is not our headache. We need to just pass the ID because they have told us that you need to have an ID in the URL. That's it. Okay, so this is the fetch complete URL. So as I said, it will return a promise. So what will we do with the promise? Dot then, and then it will have a callback function, and the callback function will have some data. So we will call it response 1 or anything you can call it, response, or let us call it response. So the output, if you remember, inside the dot then function of the promise is the output. Okay, so we can use response here, but response here also is not at the moment useful. Okay, right now response is not useful, so what we can do is we will return response.json. We will return response.json from this function, the first one, just like we did here. So the first we will return response.json from here, so it means it again will be a promise, and again we need to run dot then on it like this. So here now it is actual data, and if I console.log data, it will show us what it is. Got it? But we need to run this function first. So the function is fetch object, and we have to pass the actual ID. So the ID is, let us copy it from here, 437.133. So for example, if we are building some application internally in our office and we need data from Nadra. Nadra has exposed its data for people. So you can pass that NIC number here and it will fetch you records from the Nadra database. Okay, let us run this and see how is it behaving. So this is the object and here we have all the data of the user number, that whatever it is, and the title is this garden at, and this is the object ID. Okay, these are the correct line, and so on. So now we have the data and we want some meaningful, and this is not an array, this is just object, because this is just one record, not an array of objects. So we can directly access it. So for example, if I need to access the department, just the department, so how can I do it? Dot department, so it will show us European paintings. Console.log data dot departments, mints or mint? Oh yeah. This is European paintings, right? And similarly we can loop through all the maybe whatever we need, we can access that data. So for example, so in the second, then you can do whatever you want with the fetch data. Okay, that's the point actually. Now let me think, how can we have some small application. Okay, so let us have another div here. Div class is equal to object, and let us have a quickly a wrapper, so that we can show these two in two separate columns. Quickly, some CSS experts should come up and show me how can we turn it into dot wrapper. Display grid. One FR is fine. Okay, and maybe we can give some dot object some light background color. But that's fine for now. Okay. So we need to access dot object also, just like we have done output. So let me quickly copy this. Object obj area. So here if we are accessing data dot department, and we want it to be the inner HTML of object area. So obj area dot inner HTML. Let us quickly do it so that we may know things are fine. Okay, now it is not visible. Yes, why it has taken time? Anybody?
It's fetching the data.
It is because it is, that's the cause for promises, because API fetches can be slow. It depends upon server as well as your internet connection. It was not showing here, but let us do some loading trick, loading graphics. You might have seen something like this, loading, right? So let us download some free loading. Or maybe you just I can give you quickly an idea just to save you time. So here by default we will make obj area dot inner HTML. For example, let us do it here. You already have access to obj area dot inner HTML. So once you download that graphic, loading graphic, you will just use image src is equal to that loading graphic. Okay, but here we will just make loading dot. So previously there was nothing there. Now what will be there? Loading dot. And you can use some CSS animations also. That all depends upon you. So if I refresh the page, it is loading and then it converts to because dot inner HTML replaces the content. So the original one is replaced, and this shows it took this much time getting data from some server. That's why promises have been used. Okay. Now we need to quickly create some image, maybe in the output area here, not here, but where can we have? Maybe on the top of this European paintings. Okay, so let us have another wrapper above this. For now, def class is equal to wrapper2. Move the object here, and we will make this one wrapper2, and here we will create a form class is equal to search anything. Then it will have input type is equal to text, name is equal to search, and value is equal to, right now it should be empty, but we can this. If you go here, we have a search button now, a search field now. Also we need to have some label, and we can label one of the ways is to put label inside here, the input inside the label, so that, and we can say search. Also we need to have a button, input type is equal to submit, value is equal to submit, value is equal to search ID. That's it. Okay, so now we have a search label, the search keyword, and search ID. Is this fine? Now when, for example, if I type some ID and search, so it will go and fetch that ID from the URL, sorry, from the server using the API, and do the same stuff here, and it will show us the records, right? This is what we want. So for maybe we can give some ID or by name also, but let us give some ID is equal to search. Okay, sorry, the button. Input type is equal to submit, value is equal to search ID. Okay, now we need to access any of these elements so that we can grab what happens once we click on search. Okay, if you can see, if I click on search, the page loads. Why? Because the default behavior of a button on a page is that it will submit that form. So submit means it reruns the page. It sends a request to the server and it reruns it. For example, if I click on search ID, it reruns the page. Okay, this is not what I want. I want this button to do nothing once I search it, and via JavaScript I will. So we will use something. First, let us target this element, and let us target the form itself. So let search form equals document dot query selector dot rather ID search. Okay, now we can do something with dot search form. So for example, if I add event listener, search form dot add event listener, search form dot add event listener submit. Once the submit is clicked, do something. Maybe we can run alert form search clicked. Let us see if it is working. So the click is working fine, right? But it is loading the page. It is, which we don't want to do, because everything will be redone, repainted. And once we are in PHP, you will know why this is important. Right now maybe you are not able to grasp what is happening. Once we are in PHP, you will better know what the page reload is, what is Ajax and all. Okay, but for now, just so you know, once the some parameter is passed to the function, what it is, e or event or whatever, so we can call e dot prevent default. The default behavior is to reload the page once the button is clicked, but we are not going to do that. So for example, if I click on it now, so nothing happens. Why? Because the default behavior has been prevented. And how is that done? With this function of e.preventDefault. Okay. Now the form has one element. Input type is equal to, sorry, this one, name is equal to search. Form elements are known by their names. Okay. So for example, I want, once the button is clicked and whatever is inside the element, I want to alert it. Okay. So if I just alert, for example, search form dot search, for example, let me just check if that will work, otherwise we'll have to change dot value. Okay. So now if I type whatever I type and I search, it alerts it.
Yes.
Whatever is the value of the text feed, it will alert it. But we don't want to make any alerts like this, right? What we can do is, we will, such is the powerful attitude of these functions. Why are functions so important? Because we already have a function in which the ID is passed, the fetch object ID. So we can call that function easily here, fetch object and dot value, whatever is the value. What it will do? It will redo all this stuff and let us check if it is working. So some number, maybe some random number like this, search ID Islamic art, means the department is Islamic art. Maybe some other, this undefined, it means it doesn't have any. Arms and armor. So you can, partially the search is working fine. Okay. I will leave the rest of the elements to you. Please go through the documentation of this API, which is metmuseum.github.io/object. We haven't done any any error handling. Even text can be searched now. We can use numbers. If you can check whether if it is not a number which is searched in the search string. For example, it is letting us search anything right now here. Okay. So if it is not a number and in some range, we should have restrictions for it, validation for it. But for now, at least it is, if a number is valid, it will search that for us. The American wing 12313. Okay. So you can print all the other values here as well with the search. One of them is picture also. So for example, if I go to that example of this ID, it will return all these values which has been. So the primary image dot primary image and small image small. So let us make image primary image small. This is one of the values returned. Okay. So dot inner HTML is equal to data dot department, and then we can also, you can construct your HTML the other way around as well, as a literal string, and then use it. So let us quickly do that. Div class is equal to department, class is equal to department, and here we will use this. And how to use this? And we will now remove this one. Okay, this is fine. Let HTML equals this. Not this, but we can continue working on it. Okay, now this is div. Another, we can create another div also. Div, and this one will be for the image. So the image is image src equals this dollar sign. Where is the dollar sign? Data dot what is the name of that? Primary small image. Data primary small image, and then the closing brace. Is this fine? Probably. Let us try. Okay, so the obj area dot inner HTML then will be HTML. Good. Hopefully it will be working. If not, we will have to fix it. Okay, so let us try. I have a number already which I need to paste here and just search. Good, so the image is working fine. Maybe we need to change the code so that if an object doesn't have an image, so it should not be showing it, but for now this is okay. So in this lecture what we did was we studied fetch API in JavaScript, and we will dig further into how HTTP other methods work. This was just for get, so there are many more, not many more, but just a few which we will have to study once we have done PHP and Symfony, and maybe in Drupal also. So for now we just studied get, and hopefully when we have done PHP, we will be coming back to using other methods in HTTP. So that's all for today. Thank you so much.